Hey everyone, welcome back to Code with Poonam. It's day 75 of our 100 days of coding challenge in JavaScript. Today's challenge is all about to find the sum of the squares of the first n natural numbers. This is a great exercise to practice the loops, mathematical operations, and working with numbers in JavaScript. So let's proceed with this challenge and we will move towards our VS Code. If we see in the VS Code, we have here our question along with the sample input and output, right? So what is the question? We have to write a JavaScript function to find the sum of the squares of the first n natural numbers, right? And we have here our input and output, right? So now we will come down and first of all, we are going to break this question, okay? So I will write here what JS function, okay? After that, what is the next important chunk of this question? That we have to find the sum of the squares of the first n natural numbers, right? So that also I will take here and I am going to put it over here, okay? Now let us come here at the line number 7 and we will define our function name, okay? Now since we have to find what sum of the square of the first n natural numbers, so we will keep our function name as what? Sum of squares, okay? So I will write it like this and I will remove the additional space whatever we have it and we will make this O capital. We will make this S also capital. So this is our sum of the squares, okay? And this will be our function name, okay? So we have here 5 and here we have 55, right? So I will just write here what 5 and we are getting the output as what 55. So how we are reaching it? It is said we have to find the sum of the square of the first n natural numbers, right? That means if you see it is nothing but 1, then 2, then 3, then 4, and then 5. I am only going to this particular input, okay? So first natural numbers I am going to write here, okay? So what are the natural numbers now? 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 because the limit here is given till 5, correct? So that is our natural numbers. Now they have said we have to find the sum of the squares, right? So sum means what? We will put here what? Plus sign in between them, right? So then after putting this, they said sum of the square. So that means what we have to do? 1 multiplied by 1, then 2 multiplied by 2, then 3 multiplied by 3, then 4 multiplied by 4, and then 5 multiplied by 5, right? That is what we have to get here, correct? Now, if you see what you are going to get, 1 into 1 is what? 1, right? Then 2 into 2 will be what? 4, right? Then 3 times 3 will be what? 9, correct? Then 4 times 4 will be what? 16, correct? Then 5 times 5 will be what? 25, okay? Now, when you add all of this, you are going to get what? 55. If you want to check it, you can check it in the terminal also. If I paste it, what you are getting? You are getting nothing but 55. So the addition is what? 55. That is what is the output. And you see here, they have given here the explanation also what they're expecting from us. So this is how from 5 we are reaching to 55. If it is 7, if it is 10, so we are going to start from 1 until that number and then we will do what? Sum of the squares of that first n natural numbers, okay? That is what we are going to do and we are going to achieve that, okay? Since we have understood how we are reaching to this 55, we will come down and we will write here our approach, okay? So I will write here what? Approach. Now in mathematics, we have a formula to find out the sum of the squares of the first n natural numbers, okay? So I will come here and I will write that formula. So let me write here that formula. The formula is nothing but sum is equal to n times n plus 1 and that has to be multiplied by 2n plus 1 and the whole has to be divided by 6, okay? So this is our formula. In case if we want to use this formula, we have to just substitute our values, okay? So what is the value? We will substitute here n, okay? And then finally we will get our sum, okay? But now we will not be using this formula to execute this question. We are going to use what? Loops, okay? And plus we are going to use Math.pow method to achieve this question, okay? So let us see how we can do it, okay? Now, since we know we have to calculate the sum, right? So what we are going to do, we will come in the beginning and we will declare a variable called as a sum and we are going to initialize it with 0, okay? So that we can store our sum of the squares here, okay? After that, what we are going to do? We are going to use a loop. Okay, so I will write here our I loop. Now, why we are going to use a loop? Because if you see, we are starting here from 1 and we are going till that number, right? You see here also it is the same given to us, right? In an explanation, you have to start from 1 and you have to reach it to your number. Okay, so that is where we are going to take a loop. And what will be the start point? Start point will be always 1. And what will be the end point? End point will be that number. So in this case, what is our number now? 5. Okay, so that is what we are assuming it here. So I will just write here our I loop now. So we have to write here what? Let I is equal to 1 and I should be less than or is equal to n and then I plus plus. Okay. Okay. So in this flower braces, we are going to write a logic to calculate its square using math.power and add it to the sum. So how we are going to write it? We will be writing here what? Sum is equal to sum plus math.power, and in that we are going to pass I comma 2. Why I comma 2? Because I raised to 2, right? Every time 2 will be the constant because we have to find the square, right? That is why I raised to 2 we are going to pass it, because I is representing our natural numbers, right? So 1 raised to 2, 2 raised to 2, then 3 raised to 2, then 4 raised to 2, then 5 raised to 2, right? That is what it is going to do. And then finally it is going to store it here after adding it up every time, right? And for each iteration, it is going to add up the square of the current number to the sum variable, right? And after our loop ends, we will come here and we can just print our addition, right? So we will get here what? Finally, we will get our sum of the square of the first n natural numbers, which will be stored in our sum variable, right? That is what we are going to do it. And we will be using this particular approach to solve it. Okay. Now we will implement the same approach inside our function as well. Okay. So let us write our function. So I will write here what? Function sum of square, right? And we will invoke it quickly. Okay. So I will invoke it and I will pass our input number. That is nothing but our 5, right? Let us come here and we will receive here as n. Okay. Now let us just console it out. So I will write here what? Console.log of n. Okay. And now let us clear the terminal and we will run it here. So I will write here what? Node day 75 challenge and we will hit enter. What do I got? I got here 5. That means this function is properly running and whatever the input we are passing, it is accepting over here. Okay. Now we will come here and we will declare a variable called as a sum and we will initialize it to a 0. Okay. This sum will be the variable where we are going to store the sum of the squares, right? Now after this, let us write our loop. So I will write here what? For let I is equal to 1 and it should run till our n, right? And then I plus plus, correct? Now let us check our iteration till what our loop is running. So I will write here what? Console.log of I, right? Now let us come here and we will just test it out. So I will write here what? Node day 75 challenge and we will hit enter. What do we got? We got here 1 to 5, right? That means this is perfectly running fine, okay? Now here I will show you one more way without using this math.power also, okay? So let us write here what? Without using math.power, how can we solve it, okay? Now I showed you here, right? What is it? It is just multiplication of our same number, right? So that is what we are going to do it here. So I will write here what? Sum plus is equal to, okay, and then here I will write what? I into I. That is going to give me our final sum. Let us see what do we get outside our loop, okay? So I will write here what? Console.log of our sum. That also, if you do it, you can easily get it. So I will write here what? Node day 75 challenge. And if you see, we are getting here 55. That means this is also working with us, right? Sum plus is equal to I into I. If you see what we have done, same number we are multiplying, right? That is what I have done here. So this logic which I explained, this also I used it here, okay? Now let us see with using our math.power how we can do it. So I will write here what? With using math.power. Okay, so I'll just write it like this. Okay, and here as well, parenthesis, let us add, and we will write here what? Sum plus is equal to, I will write, and we will just write here what? Math.power. And in this, we are going to pass I comma 2. Okay. Now let us see what do we get. So I will just write here what? Note day 75 challenge, and we will hit enter. What we are getting? We are getting 55. Okay. So in both the cases, we are able to solve it. So here also, if you don't want to use this formula and math.power method, that also can be easily doable. Okay. So without using math.power also, we are reaching to this 55, and with using our math.power, we are reaching to this 55. So you can use any one of them as per your choice. Okay. That is what we have done here. Now I will also show you with the substitution. In the beginning, I thought I will not be doing it because it's just a pure substitution, but let us do that substitution as well. Okay. So let us come down and we will write here what? Let sum for. Okay. So let us declare another variable. Okay. And we will store this formula inside it. Okay. So we will write here what? N times n plus 1, right? It is. Then we have to use our again times. Okay. And then we will come here inside this bracket 2 times n, right? Then we will write here what? Plus 1, and then whole divided by 6. Okay. That is what. And now just let us console it out. So I will write here what? Console.log sum for. Okay. Let us clear the terminal and test it out. So I will write here what? Node day 75 challenge, and we will hit enter. If you see here, we are getting here what? 2 times 55. That means line number 35 is getting printed. Line number 37 is also getting printed. Okay. Now, if you see the formula, I have written here the formula, and wherever it was needed, I have added a multiplication sign. Okay. So always remember, whenever you are using it, you will have to use it with a multiplication sign. Why? Because here, if you're not using it, then it will behave like a method or a function, and this type of method doesn't exist, right? That is where you are going to get an error. Okay. So don't use directly as the formula it is. You have to use proper multiplication sign within there wherever it is needed. Okay. Now what we will do, we will come here and we will print all the 3 ways. Okay. The way we are getting the output. Okay. So let us come here and we will declare a variable called as what? Sum math, and we will initialize it with 0. Okay. Now this is going to give you the output when we are using this math.power. Okay. So I will just uncomment this out and I will write here what? Sum math. Okay. And we are going to store it inside it. Now here we will come and we will write here what? Console.log of sum math. Okay. Now let us see what do we get in the terminal. Okay. So I will write here what? Node day 75 challenge, and we will hit enter. If you see, we are getting 3 times 55, right? That means everything is running properly. Okay. Now what I will do, I will take this line number 38 and I will put it in the beginning. Okay. So I will write it here. Okay. Now let us just bring together all our console.log statement and we will just print it out. Okay. So clear it up, note day 75 challenge, and hit enter. You see here, we are getting 3 times 55, right? No change, correct? Now what we will do, let us comment this line number 26. Let us comment this line number 32 and once again run it. Okay. So node day 75 and hit enter. You are getting here what? 55, right? Now let us come here and we will just improvise it. Okay. Now I will write it here what? Sum of the square of the first n natural numbers. Okay. So I will just put it over here, and in place of n, I am going to write our exact n. Okay. So dollar flower braces n, and we will make this S capital. Okay. And we will use here colon as well. Okay. And we will use the same thing inside our both the console.log statement. Okay. So I will write it here and I will write it here as well. Okay. Now let us clear it up and we will just test it out first. So I will write here what? Node day 75 challenge, and we will hit enter. If you see, we are getting here what? All 3 places we are getting here 55. Okay. Now we will just write here with using, I'll write here using math.power, and I will write here using mathematical formula. Okay. That is, we have used it, and here using just multiplication, right? So I will write here that as well. Okay. And now let us clear our terminal and let us just test it. Now you will get a proper thing here. So node day 75 challenge, and if you hit enter, you are getting it properly. Let us clear it out and rerun it. Node day 75 challenge, and you see here what using multiplication is 55, using Math.pow is 55, and using mathematical formula is 55. Okay, let us write that complete, okay, formula also. So I will write here what MULA. Okay, now what we will do, we will invoke it for the other inputs. Okay, so we will check it for 7 and 10 also. So I will just pass here what sum of squares 7 and sum of squares 10. Let us see what do we get here. So I will write here what node day 75 challenge, and we will hit enter. What we are getting for 7, we are getting everywhere 140. That means everything is correct. And here for 10, you are getting everywhere 385, right? So that means all of them are correct, right? So that is what we have done it, and we are getting here our exact output, right? Now let us have a quick recap of this particular question. So let us come above and let us read out the question. What do we have? We have to write a JS function to find the sum of the square of the first n natural numbers, right? And what do we have here? We have here our input and output, right? Now on the basis of our question, we wrote here important chunks of the question, right? What was that? JS function, and we defined here our JS function, right? And then what we have to find? We have to find the sum of the square of the first n natural numbers, right? We understood here how we are reaching from 5 to 55, right? And on the basis of that, we wrote our approach, right? By using a mathematical formula, we can easily get our sum, right? That also we have seen inside our function, right? We also used here another approach, that is using loops and Math.pow function, right? So what we did, we initialized a variable sum is equal to 0, right? And this sum is going to store the sum of the squares, right? Then we looped here what from 1 to n, correct? And we used here our Math.pow method, right? So for each number, we are going to calculate its square using the Math.pow, and we are going to add it to the sum. And finally, we are going to print our sum, right? And the same thing we have done inside our function also. So we came here and we defined our function as what? Sum of the square. And we were receiving here n as a params, right? Then we just consoled our n and we just tested, right? Then we came here and we declared here 3 variables. One was what? Sum is equal to 0, sum math is equal to 0, and sum 4, right? And here we initialize both of them with 0, and here we put our formula, right? One thing to remember, that when we are using the formula, we have to use it with our multiplication sign wherever it is needed, okay? Then we wrote our for loop, right? Inside our for loop, what we have done, then we came here and we calculated the sum of the squares, right? Without using our Math.pow, and we were storing inside this sum, right? And down what we did with using Math.pow, right? And we came here and we stored everything inside it, right? And that is where we consoled everything, right? And here there was a direct substitution, so it happened directly, right? And we consoled it here directly, right? And if you see in the terminal, we were getting the correct output. So let us come here and we will clear it out, and I will write here what? Node day 75 challenge. And if we hit enter, we were getting 3 times 55. We were getting 140 also 3 times, and then 385 also 3 times. Why? Because we have invoked here with 3 different input numbers, right? 5, 7, and 10. That is where we were getting the output. And here, if you see, we have written 3 times console.log with the correct improvisation statements, right? And that is where we are getting it here. So we will come here and we will just comment this line number 43 and 44, because the input which was provided, it was only 5. So let us come here and I will write here what? Node day 75 challenge. And if you hit enter, you are going to get your exact output, right? So if you see here, we have done this challenge using this 3 different ways. Whichever way you like it, you can just go for it and use it, okay? Now I will tell you why this challenge is useful. This challenge helps us to practice the basic mathematical operations and improve our ability to use loops and work with numbers. It's a great exercise for mastering how to manipulate and calculate values programmatically. So that's all for today, guys. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to my channel, and check out Code with Poonam on YouTube for more amazing coding challenges. So keep up the great work and happy coding, guys. Take care. Bye-bye.